As for now, there are 195 fully recognized countries in the world, but there are a few in a question mark. Depending on who you ask, the number might be 197 or 198. Soon it might be even over 200. Why are new countries being born? Is it always like that? The answer is yes. For an example, when the European empires began decolonizing Africa and Asia, they left behind trails of tens, even hundreds of new independent countries. And even now in 2017, we hear about new countries that want independence in several places in Europe and the Middle East, with the most recent one being the Catalan Republic officially declaring independence from Spain on October 27, 2017. But what about you? Let's say you don't like your current country, want to declare independence and have your brand new personal country. Can you do it? Well, technically, yes. All you have to do is to follow these 4 steps and you have your personal sovereign state. However, those 4 steps aren't baby steps. They are 4 difficult steps. In this video, we will review those 4 steps and the difficulties of achieving them. Step 1. Take a piece of land. Whether it's as small as Vatican City or as large as Russia, you need a territory to have your own country. But how do you get land? Well, you could try to take some land from an already existing country. But most countries really like their land and they wouldn't give up on it very easily. So you might try to take an unclaimed piece of land. Surprisingly, there are still a few of those, like Bir Tawil, a tiny territory between the Egyptian-Sudani border. Because Egypt thinks the border looks like this, while Sudan thinks it looks like this, they have gotten into this awkward situation where this piece of land is claimed by both, while this piece of land, Bir Tawil, is claimed by none. There's also Western Sahara, another territory in the West African coast, about the size of New Zealand. It is claimed by Morocco, but the world doesn't recognize the claim, so it is basically no man's land. Oh, and there's the entire continent of Antarctica, which is claimed by no country. Step 2. Get yourself a permanent population. No matter how many, you need people inhabiting the land in order to make it a country. Without them, it's just land. And that's where the problem begins. There isn't any permanent population on those places. Bir Tawil, for an example, is completely uninhabited. Literally nobody lives there. As for Antarctica, it is quite sparsely populated. Except for a team of around 1,000 researchers and 12 million penguins, it is very empty. But there's a reason why there aren't any countries in those places already. They are completely unsuitable for human life. Antarctica is a frozen desert with an average temperature of -32 degrees Celsius with no way to grow food. And I mean, who would like to eat a penguin? While Bir Tawil is a scorching desert which is home to nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even plants or animals. Just sand dunes. But let's say you somehow managed to deal with the extreme weather and settle in one of those places. What's next? Step 3. Install a government. Unless you want your country to be completely anarchist, which isn't really recommended, you need some form of a government. You can pick yourself a government type. It can be a democracy, a constitutional monarchy, an absolute monarchy, a totalitarian dictatorship, or whatever you want. Now you need to construct a set of rules. There isn't technically any limitation about the rules, but you better pick the one that support human rights. Why, you ask? Well, except for moral reasons, there is another reason why you should, but we'll get to that later. And finally, you need a way to enforce the rules. Because if you won't, people could just break the law without worrying about punishments, making the laws completely useless. So now we have a piece of land, a permanent population, and a functioning government. Does this mean that we have a country yet? Well, not exactly. There is one final step before you can have your personal country. Step 4. Become internationally recognized. Abraham Lincoln once famously said, "How many legs does a sheep have if you call its tail a leg?" 4. Calling a tail a leg doesn't make it one. And the same goes for a country. You can't just take some people, some land, make up some rules and call this a country. The rest of the world needs to recognize it. Because if not, for them, it wouldn't exist. And diplomatic relations wouldn't exist as well, so you basically have a failed country that doesn't function at all. And that's why you need rules that support human rights. The international community wouldn't support the existence of a country that abuses them. And how do you become fully recognized? Well, it is quite simple. First, the UN Security Council gathers and votes about the existence of your country. It is comprised of 15 different countries. 5 permanent members, also known as the Big Five, and 10 non-permanent members. If at least 9 of them voted for the existence of your country, of them at least one is from the Big Five, your request is forwarded to the General Assembly, which has all of UN member states. And they vote. If at least 2/3 of the countries have voted for the existence of your country, then congratulations! You have your personal, brand new sovereign state. Now that we know how to make a country, let's come with me to Antarctica to make our own one. I'm ready, so let's go! When the largest of them, the Tsar Bomba, was detonated, it released the energy equivalent of 58 million tons of TNT, which is as much energy as the entire population of Austria consumes in an entire year.